Hello everyone, we are the Coding Creatures, and today we'll be showing you our activity on cybersecurity. It's a board game called Malware Mystery. Ooh, sounds spooky, doesn't it? Now, as we explain how the game works, you might find it similar to some other board game you may have played before, but don't worry about that, this is still unique in many ways. Malware Mystery is a game made to teach the players about different identifying features of different types of malware on your computer that can get infected. After playing the game, the players should be able to identify different types of malware when they see it, so they know how to get rid of them, and even avoid getting them in the first place. Now, to begin, each player will get a key with each of the different types of malware in the game, showing each one's distinguishing features from 4 different categories: rarity, source, where the malware comes from, execution, how the malware is activated, and key trait, some other unique trait to that malware. This will be explained in more detail later. Out of all the players, one must be chosen as the malware player. This player will represent the malware that has infected the computers. The malware player must choose a set of the 4 different categories of cards to make a type of malware. This is the type of malware they will be for the game. They want to keep these cards hidden from all the players for the duration of the game. The goal of the malware player is to keep the players from finding out what type of malware player they are. Shuffle the rest of the cards in the clue card deck. Next, the rest of the players place their pieces on any of the outer starting spaces. The malware player puts their piece on the starting space in the center room. The malware player always gets the red piece. Lastly, each of the non-malware players start with 1 card. Now we can begin the game for real! The game starts with the player sitting to the left of the malware player. Each turn, the player rolls the die and moves the amount of spaces they rolled. The turns go around the table clockwise. If the player lands in a computer room, their turn ends immediately. There are also many orange spaces on the board. The players must land on those spaces in order to gain a card from the deck and expand their hand. They want to do this in order to see more of the cards that are in the deck, so they know which cards aren't in the malware player's hand. This helps them narrow down the options and have a better idea of what malware the malware player is. And there's no limit to the number of cards a player can be holding in their hand at a time. After each turn, the malware player must read aloud the details of one malware from the malware list, which will describe the details of a type of malware in the game, including the malware's rarity, where it normally originates, how the malware is executed, and a key trait of the malware. This is so that the players learn about the different types, and they can use this info to help them make educated guesses on what malware the player is. If a player's turn ends in a room, they are allowed to guess what the malware is, listing the different aspects of the malware.
I say that the malware is Trojan, which is common. It is acquired from files online, and it is executed by user interaction, and a key trait is that it can damage or delete files.
The player to the accuser's left must then disprove the accuser's theory by showing them a card in their deck that proves that it couldn't be that malware, since that card isn't in the malware player's hand. The player has to do this. If they have no card to disprove the player's theory, the player to their left must try to disprove their guess. The same goes for the next player around, and if none of the players can disprove the player's guess, then the malware player must tell them whether they're right or not.
Well, I'm sorry to say that guess was not correct.
They have to tell the truth, of course. If the player's guess is wrong, the game continues. There is no penalty for making a guess, so the players will likely want to make guesses in the early game to start narrowing down the possibilities already. The player uses the guess that was disproven to help them eliminate possibilities of what malware could be the culprit. They will check cards that they've seen off of their checklist. When it gets to the malware player's turn, they get to roll the die. They actually have to roll the die more than once. They must announce to all players a number from the die that they will bet to roll. The first time they roll the die, the number they roll is the number of chances they get to roll the number that they bet on getting. For example, if they roll a 2, they have 2 chances to try and roll the number that they bet on rolling. So they want to roll a higher number for the first roll. If they fail to roll their number, they do nothing and it's the next player's turn. But if they succeed in rolling their number, they get to move to any room perpendicular to the room they're in. They can't move diagonally. They may also choose not to move. The malware player cannot move outside of any of the rooms. The malware player's goal is to move to a room with a player in it. If they do move into a room with a player in it, they get to take one random card from the player in that room. If there are multiple players in the room, they choose the player to take a card from. If a player guesses the malware correctly, then they win. If the malware player manages to take an entire set of one type of clue card, then they win. Now that you know how the game works, go ahead and enjoy playing. Once you're done playing the game, you should have a newfound understanding of different types of malware, rather than calling everything just a virus. This should allow you to properly fight against these malware, and even avoid getting any in the first place, so that you can have a happier, healthier computer.